We are smack in the middle of summer and it is food week. Let's go back to childhood. What types of foods do you associate with summer and your own childhood? For me, one of the strongest food memories, and you can't really call it food, but the snack bar at the pool. The way that when they opened up the frozen treats, what it smelled like combined with the chlorine and all that kind of stuff, there's a mental grab for me that is a frozen Snickers bar coming out into my hands at the snack bar. So search your own memory banks for those little gems of how our mental self structured. As I sit here, Tavish Cardiff, representing our raw material, I am taken back to just how I felt at the pool at those ages. And, whether it was extreme confidence or feeling dumb or embarrassed, I experienced a full range of emotions at the pool that I went to as a kid. So thinking about food took me all the way back there, reminding us that the pillar of food connects to our mental structure. And it really examines all of those things that go into our actual belief system. The things that we were taught when we were young, the things that we were told to believe, and the things that we came to and developed on our own. And that's just one of many opportunities we have to look at how food affected or had an effect on the way that we view the experiences of our childhood. It is our raw materials food week, and we are just going to dive into our mental structures, our belief systems, and getting familiar with looking at how they're formed. Those roots are the keys to understanding and unlocking the things that limit us now and the things that keep us from what we want. We may have even blocked some mental channels because when the desires aren't nurtured, or the beliefs or the things that we're trying to build aren't nurtured, then those things get left unfed. They wind up without the proper nutrients to grow, and in that space we find difficulty connecting the dots on our what we believe, what we expect, what we know, and uh, and then therefore what we believe is available to help and support us. I like to talk about Santa Claus. When we're little kids, we're so wrapped up in this belief system. Some of us are indoctrinated with that experience. And for me personally, being able to do the logistical math, the time, the amount of people, figuring out what was possible and what wasn't, and then still wanting to stick with, the extra presents that you get and all the ego-based things that I liked about Santa Claus. My parents made it really easy by telling us if we stopped believing in Santa Claus, we didn't get gifts anymore. So it was easy to keep saying that I believed in Santa Claus and still scientifically not believe it. So the magic of the story, the ideal, was able to flourish and grow while the reality, the science behind it, backed up my belief that it wasn't real. And my family allowed me to have all of us to have those spaces open. We all knew what the truth was, but it was really nice to talk in the space or idealize the space of it being real, because the energy, the feelings, the tones are real. And the spirit itself of what Christmas means to, I guess, me or my family, because that's the only frame of reference I really have, is a spirit of togetherness. Our family never came together on Christmas because of a religious thing, although we did go to church, but that was never the central message or the central reason for being. So that might be blasphemous to some other people, but that's just how my family did it. And with that, I was nourished to suspend reality, suspend belief, and to use my imagination for the spaces that weren't necessarily true, but they still had validity and they still had a dreamy quality. And in my family, that was valued. So I'm really lucky to have that dream space, that ideal playground to be nurtured in. I know that doesn't exist for a lot of people. and especially creative people, where a business-minded mentality was much more acceptable and lauded. The imagination thing, unless you had creative type parents, was probably squashed a little bit because we have work to do. And the work usually involves doing something tedious, and fun, enjoyment is separate from work. When we have a mental structure that is nurtured in a way that supports the whole being, then we find our work connected to our passion and our purpose, and those things become fun. That's part of it, though, recognizing the strength and fragility that comes with experience in our belief system. There are things that solidify what we believe, and there are things that come into our mind that make us question it or tear it down even entirely. We might come across some information that completely shatters some of our beliefs. And that mental structure, if it's not very secure, can't handle those crashes very easily. If our mental structure is secure, and only you can know what's secure emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically, only you can say, because you are the only person that lives within that space. And if you aren't being honest with yourself, it's very hard for you to find balance and exchange and nurturing from the world. When you are able to find that balance with yourself, and our raw material provides that organically and gives you some space for those thoughts to open up, find roots, and find spaces to be grateful for even the most traumatic experiences that we've had in our lives. This mental structure is fragile, and it is based on our experience, and it is based on the things that we are taught to believe and the things that we seek out to believe. So paying attention to how it formed and how it has grown and changed as we have grown and changed, because those things help us pick out what's actually important to us, setting aside all of the things that have us clamoring to be something that someone else wants us to be, or something that is, shiny object triggered by a thought or a belief that's different from what our normal track is. And by examining our mental structure in Food Week, we set ourselves up to see the roots of where we are resistant, where we are compliant, and where we might not stand up for ourselves, or where we might be too aggressive. We tie these things together and recognize where they came from. The Food Week pillar is just that, food for thought. It helps us understand the how and why of how this operates us in the world. Curiosity knows no bounds when it comes to our mental structure and how we ping pong from one thought to another. When we become observers of our mental structure rather than judges, we open up the space to breathe, clear, sweep out the cobwebs, and allow new structures to be built in their place, reinventing the old structures so that they have a new modern twist and don't carry the problems that existed with the original structure. As is always the case, with time, we see what was flawed in the original design. And here we have the opportunity to tweak it naturally and make ourselves feel solid in a world that right now feels chaotic and unstructured. It is Food Week. I am Tavish Cardiff, representing our raw material. I will be back next week to talk about ignorance as we start the physical weeks. Check us out at ourrawmaterial.com, and I will see you soon.